Thank you for staying with us. It's Motivation this Monday morning, and we are joined by Emeka Ezeogu. He's the head of Academy and Coaching Services at Olusola Lanre Coaching Academy. And this morning, our topic is living by principles.
Exactly.
It's great to have you. You're welcome.
It's good to be here.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good morning. What would you define as a principle?
A principle is it's an internal guide, a law that governs people's behavior. I would call it internal, really.
Internal,
and then I would have also called it universal. But this law governs your outcome, it governs your behavior, it governs what you do. So every time you act, there is something underlying that act. Basically, there are two things. There is pattern, and then there is principles. Patterns are offshoots of principles. Yeah, so patterns are repeated forms of behavior. I've done this over and over again. But the first time I did it, there was a law that governed that behavior. There was a law an internal law, a sense of guide. Something said this is how you should respond. So in some way,
causality, it was the principle that creates the pattern.
Exactly.
So that's the foundation.
That's the foundation.
That's the foundation. Wow. Okay, living by those principles. Now, this is something I remember growing up, and my dad, we always knew him as a principled person who did things and didn't do things based on what he believed in, and all of that. But we find out that such traits are not as, we don't see them as much as we used to see them before. It's something that is not so prevalent in this day. How important is it to live by principles?
All right, so now you're looking at positive principles.
Okay, yes, let me put it down, because while I was speaking, I understood that, look, whichever way you are, every human has a principle.
Exactly.
There's something that guides you.
There's something that guides you.
There's a foundation that guides you.
Exactly. So we're looking at positive principles now.
Yes.
But really, now, and then the conversation now is coming from, I saw my father do stuff. I mean, and that the kind of things he did was prevalent across his generation. So that would have told you, or that would have suggested that there was some kind of social phenomenon happening. There was a script, right? Something that played along a particular dispensation. They picked up these values. It was what the society was saying to them, what their community was saying to them, what their culture was saying to them. Because really and truly, you're not born with principles. You adopt them.
You adopt them, exactly.
You adopt them because you observe them, you see them. And to come to your question, we're not seeing those kind of things now because this dispensation is programmed differently. I'll give you an illustration. So I was on Uber a couple of days back, just going home. And then for some reason, there was this music playing, and for the first time, I paid attention to the lyrics. Now, the musician was actually thanking God that he was a Yahoo boy. This one I'm going to say. And he was saying Yahoo's by grace, Wow. It just pinged me back. I was in another event a couple of weeks back, and I was speaking, and a young boy stood up and said the very exact same thing. It was after I listened to the lyric of this song, and I figured, oh, that's where that was coming from. So why we see it happening now is there's a broadband programming that is happening. People are picking up new governing principles based on the kind of music they hear, the kind of things they see.
The kind of movies they watch.
The kind of movies they watch. It was B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner is a social psychologist. He worked in the area of operant conditioning, how behaviors are conditioned into people. He said something. He said, give me a child between the ages of 0 to 10. Just give me that child for 10 years, and I will make him into anybody I desire him to be. And he said, how? I will just be in charge of what he sees, what he hears, the kind of music he listens to. That's why nations have anthems. Anthems are supposed to be in themselves a means by which the entire nation is programmed to imbibe a particular governing principle. Every country in the world has anthems. It's not by mistake or by luck. They're intentionally trying to program some set of governing principles into the people.
Into the people.
Right. So, yeah, we're not born with principles. We inherit them. We inherit them based on our exposure, our experiences, and most especially the kind of information that is prevalent in our dispensation.
At this particular point.
Yeah.
Well, you see, I once heard someone who said that the old days were not good. Why? Because if they were good, then it should be better now. So what happened? Where did the disconnect come in? Because if you had good parents, or if you had people who were raised with positive principles, how come they raised children who could not bequeath or pass on those principles going forward to the next generation?
there is not one answer to that question, because there's a lot of things that happen in the world right now. And we are at the point where we've mastered the whole essence of social engineering. The old days were good or not good. I don't get that. What I really understand is that in the old days, the means of programming was in culture, was in stories and beliefs. All right, so if you were a woman and you grew up in the old days, you were programmed to be a wife and a mother. Programmed. Everybody around you programmed you to be a wife and a mother. We're going outside now, but the subject of submission is not something you can say, no. You're programmed to believe that. But today, over the last 20, 30 years, the average woman is programmed to be successful. The social scripts that she runs is you've got to be successful. The social script her mother ran was you've got to be a wife and a mother. And that is success. That's success in that dispensation. So we're consistently evolving. What happened is right now, culture is not as grassroots as it used to be. There is a social engineering process that's allowed it to go beyond the house. Yeah. So my father is not programming me. True. Because of the cosmopolitan nature of the world, we call it a global village. You can see how Asians will react in a particular situation. Exactly. And then you have this mindset, you're thinking worldwide. Let's just round up with this one. In such a time as this, with all the social, influence and all of that, how can one maintain or live by positive principles? Or how can one inculcate positive principles? I think you've got to be intentional. No, I don't think. I know you've got to be intentional from the get-go. Who do I want to be? And you start from that place. You start from identity. So if I know who I want to be, I will know the set of values, principles that will make me into that person. So you start from the beginning. Irrespective of what's happening around, you ask yourself, who do I really want to be? What identity do I want to carry? How do I want to be perceived, interpreted, interacted with? And in the moment you define and identify that, then you build the package, the value package, the belief package. Those are the things that now form a moral guide. So that when tomorrow they tell you to do something that does not align with your identity, you get the check instantly. I can't do that. Not because it's not something everybody is doing, but because it's not who I am. Wow. Thank you so much, Emeka. Be intentional about creating that would kick off or would hold that one. Well, we're having you across the whole month. I'm looking forward to a wonderful month of motivation with you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Okay, I hope you're able to pick something there. Be intentional about creating the positive principles that you should live by in spite of all the social influencing. Well, we're also intentional on the show about what we prepare in the morning. Chef D is in the kitchen with Mary. How you guys doing? What do you guys have for us this morning?